General Motors may have ruled the roads in the 1960s, but not every car rolling off its assembly lines was a winner. Beneath the muscle and prestige were serious engineering flops, rushed designs, and outright mechanical disasters. From underpowered fleet cars to dangerously unstable performance models, we're diving into the 15 worst GM cars of the 60s that ever hit the streets. Ready to revisit some infamous automotive missteps? Let's count down the models that even GM wishes you'd forget. Chevrolet Corvair First Generation, 1960 to 1964. The Chevrolet Corvair might be one of the most infamous cars GM ever produced, not because of what it did right, but because of what it did dangerously wrong. Marketed as a stylish rear-engined compact designed to take on the Volkswagen Beetle, the Corvair quickly became the poster child for automotive risk. The swing-axle rear suspension, a so-called innovation, left the Corvair frighteningly unstable, causing sudden oversteer and a terrifying tendency to flip in emergency maneuvers. Tire pressure recommendations were all over the place, contributing further to unpredictable handling. What truly sealed its fate was Ralph Nader's groundbreaking book, Unsafe at Any Speed, which brought the Corvair's design flaws into the national spotlight. Instead of addressing the issues, GM tried to smear Nader, a PR move that only fueled the fire. Lawsuits and settlements piled up, and the Corvair's reputation was tarnished forever. Lacking basic safety features and built with questionable structural integrity, the Corvair became a symbol of what happens when style trumps safety. Even today, collectors may appreciate its unique place in history. But for the average driver, the Corvair is best remembered as a cautionary tale, one that proved not every GM innovation should make it off the drawing board. Pontiac Tempest, 1961 to 1963. GM's early 60s Pontiac Tempest looked like a safe bet, compact, modern, and featuring a novel drivetrain setup. But under the surface, this so-called innovation would turn out to be a recipe for mechanical misery. Instead of a conventional drive shaft, Pontiac opted for a rope drive, a flexible shaft paired to a rear-mounted transaxle. On paper, it promised smooth power delivery. In reality, it introduced relentless vibrations, constant noise, and frequent failures. Owners complained of a jittery ride and mechanical breakdowns that no amount of tinkering could fix. Add to that a strange weight distribution from its oddball four-cylinder engine, basically half of a V8 sawed in two. And you got a car with poor handling, sluggish acceleration, and a tendency to oversteer in all the wrong ways. The engine itself was rough and underpowered, and constant stalling drove owners crazy. Mechanics were baffled. Parts wore out quickly, and drivers spent more time at the shop than on the road. After 3 short years, even GM realized this bold experiment was unsustainable, so they quietly overhauled the Tempest for 1964, dumping the problematic setup. Today, those early Tempests stand out for all the wrong reasons, a reminder that not every innovation makes for a reliable ride. Oldsmobile F85, Jetfire 1962 to 1963. At first glance, the Oldsmobile F85 Jetfire looks like a piece of automotive history. After all, it was the world's first turbocharged production car. But with that milestone came a host of troubles that quickly overshadowed its legacy. The Jetfire's high-tech turbo system required a special turbo rocket fluid, a mix of methanol and water, just to keep the engine alive. Most owners didn't bother refilling it, leading to rampant turbo failures and catastrophic engine damage. The turbo setup was temperamental and hard to maintain, with inconsistent performance and frequent breakdowns. Even when running, the Jetfire couldn't match the simpler, more reliable muscle cars of its era. Poor fuel economy and complex maintenance drove buyers away in droves. The final straw. Oldsmobile was forced to recall most Jetfires and replace their turbo engines with regular V8s, erasing the very thing that made them unique. In the end, GM gave up on the idea for decades. The F-85 Jetfire may be a curiosity for collectors, but in its day, it was a high-maintenance headache that failed to deliver on its futuristic promise. Buick Special Skylark, 1962 to 1963. The Buick Special Skylark should have been a showcase of GM's engineering prowess, boasting the first all-aluminum V8 in American automotive history. Instead, it became a maintenance nightmare that still haunts mechanics today. The lightweight 215 cubic inch engine sounded good on paper, but aluminum technology wasn't ready for prime time. The block and heads expanded at different rates, causing chronic overheating and blown head gaskets. Oil leaks were legendary, with the engine's gaskets and seals constantly failing and sending mechanics into fits of frustration. Even simple repairs became a challenge due to the engine's fragility, and internal corrosion often meant early engine death. Owners who bought in for performance or efficiency got neither. Instead, they spent their days dealing with breakdowns and expensive fixes. Many gave up entirely, swapping out the engine or scrapping the car. While Rover later turned the design into a success, the original Skylark was all promise and no payoff, standing as a warning against rushing new technology into the showroom before it's truly ready. Chevrolet Chevy 2/Nova base models, 1962 to 1964. The Chevy 2 and its Nova variant were supposed to be affordable, dependable compacts, but when equipped with the base six-cylinder engines, they fell flat, literally and figuratively. The 1940 Ci and 230 Ci inline sixes were woefully underpowered, making every drive a slog, especially once the car was loaded with passengers or cargo. Worse, these engines were notorious for poor oil circulation, which led to accelerated wear on the camshaft and lifters. Overheating was a common complaint, thanks to an undersized and inefficient cooling system, and timing chain stretch caused erratic ignition and more breakdowns. Add to that a basic 3-speed manual or an uninspiring Powerglide automatic, and you had a recipe for dull driving and frequent visits to the mechanic. The plain interiors and Spartan features didn't help matters, making the base Nova feel cheap even compared to other economy cars of the day. While V8-powered Novas eventually gained a reputation for performance, the early six-cylinder models are largely forgotten, overlooked by collectors and remembered by owners as bare bones rides best left in the past. Chevrolet Corvair. Greenbrier van, 1961 to 1965. You'd think a van based on the popular Corvair could be a family hauler for the ages, but the Greenbrier was a rolling example of why not every platform can, or should, be everything to everyone. GM's decision to use the same rear-engine air-cooled flat six made the Greenbrier prone to the same dangerous handling as the Corvair coupe, only now with more weight and higher stakes. Loaded with passengers or cargo, the van's odd weight distribution got worse, making it hard to steer and even harder to stop. The underpowered engine struggled mightily on hills or highways, while the cooling system barely kept up, especially in summer heat. Accessing the engine for even basic repairs was a nightmare, and mechanical failures were a constant threat. Safety was an afterthought, especially at a time when van buyers expected more protection for their families. In the end, the Greenbrier vanished almost as quickly as it arrived, its oddball engineering, weak power, and hazardous handling making it a footnote even among Corvair fans. Chevrolet Corvair Monza. Spider Turbo, 1962 to 1964. Turbocharging a Corvair sounds daring, but the Monza Spider Turbo proved some risks just aren't worth it. GM crammed a turbocharged flat six into a chassis already infamous for sketchy handling, hoping to lure performance buyers. What they got was a car that went from sluggish to scary in a heartbeat. Severe turbo lag meant the power kicked in unpredictably, catching drivers off guard and making the Corvair even more difficult to control, especially in corners. The added heat of turbocharging was too much for the car's air-cooled engine, leading to chronic overheating, oil leaks, and engine damage. Owners faced constant expensive repairs and little reward for their patience. The turbo system itself was rudimentary, and drivers soon learned it was more trouble than it was worth. In the end, the Monza Spider became a cautionary tale. Proof that adding power to a bad foundation doesn't make it better. It just makes the problems harder to ignore. Cadillac Series 62, 1964 to 1965. By the mid-1960s, the Cadillac Series 62 should have been the ultimate symbol of luxury and prestige, but instead, it became a symbol of excess and obsolescence. Weighing well over 2 tons, the Series 62's massive V8 engine had its work cut out for it, guzzling fuel with little to show for it in terms of real performance. The Powerglide automatic transmission was outdated, offering sluggish shifts and contributing to the car's heavy, floaty feel. Build quality took a hit too, with rattling trim and electrical gremlins becoming all too common as GM struggled to keep up with demand. The lack of modern safety features put luxury buyers at risk, and reliability issues drove many to competitors. In an era of innovation, the Series 62 was stuck in the past, overweight, underpowered, and outclassed by both domestic and foreign luxury sedans. Cadillac soon realized the need for a major update, but by then, the Series 62's reputation had already taken a beating. Chevrolet Biscayne 6-cylinder, 1960 to 1964. Intended as a budget-friendly fleet vehicle, the 6-cylinder Chevrolet Biscayne was about as bare bones as it gets. Unfortunately, what GM saved in cost, buyers paid for in headaches. The 235 cubic inch and 230 cubic inch 6-cylinder engines were underpowered, making even simple commutes a struggle, especially as the car's size increased. Poor oil circulation led to rapid wear and early engine failure, while weak timing chains meant unpredictable ignition timing and constant misfires. Overheating was a frequent complaint, especially in warmer climates or heavy traffic. With stripped-down interiors, minimal options, and all-around uninspired design, the Biscayne offered little comfort or appeal. For many, it became a throwaway car, valued only for its low price and utility. Today, these 6-cylinder Biscaynes are a rare sight. Most didn't survive long enough to become classics, and those that did are often overshadowed by the far more desirable V8 models. Buick Riviera. Early models, 1963 to 1965. The Buick Riviera's styling was a knockout, but its early years were plagued with mechanical and reliability issues that tarnished its otherwise glamorous image. The heavy 401 nailhead V8 was supposed to provide luxury performance, but its sluggish acceleration and low-revving nature left many owners disappointed. The aging Dynaflow transmission, with its slow, rubbery shifts, didn't help matters, making the car feel even less responsive. Electrical problems, including faulty power windows and accessories, plagued the Riviera, and frequent brake fade meant stops were often more dramatic than drivers bargained for. Despite the beautiful design and upscale intent, these first Rivieras were more style than substance, unreliable, expensive to maintain, and easily outpaced by competitors in both luxury and performance. Later models would fix many of these issues, but for early buyers, the Riviera was a lesson that looks aren't everything. Pontiac LeMans, 4-cylinder, 1962 to 1964. Before the LeMans was a GTO stablemate, it was a humble compact with one of GM's oddest engines, a 194 cubic inch engine 4-cylinder that was literally half a 389 V8. Unfortunately, this experiment yielded a rough, noisy, and underpowered power plant that barely managed daily driving. Coupled with the problematic Tempest rope drive, the early LeMans was a recipe for vibration, stalling, and mechanical headaches. Handling was unpredictable, power delivery inconsistent, and engine reliability abysmal. Owners were often frustrated by frequent breakdowns, hard starts, and a lack of available parts. As soon as V8 and straight-six options became available, the 4-cylinder LeMans faded into obscurity. Today, it's a rare find, but not because collectors seek it out. Most survivors are reminders that cost-cutting and experimentation don't always pay off in the world of cars. Oldsmobile Jetstar I, 1964 to 1966. The Jetstar I was Oldsmobile's attempt at affordable luxury, designed to capture buyers who wanted performance without the Starfire's high price tag. But what they got was a car that couldn't measure up on any front. The 394 Ci Rocket V8 was reliable but underwhelming compared to the emerging muscle car crowd, offering neither the speed nor the thrill buyers craved. The styling was plain, failing to excite anyone on the showroom floor, and the interior trim felt cheap for a car meant to carry the Oldsmobile name. Build quality suffered, with rattling dashboards and loose panels, and resale value plummeted almost immediately. Competing with muscle cars like the GTO and Chevelle, the Jetstar I simply couldn't stand out. It disappeared after just one model year, forgotten by most and sought by few. A clear sign that sometimes being average is the worst sin in the auto world. Chevrolet Impala SS 409, 1961 to 1964. Few names in American automotive history evoke more nostalgia than the Impala SS 409. But for all its legendary status, the early SS 409s were deeply flawed. The 409 CV8 was a brute on paper, but it was heavy, temperamental, and prone to overheating when pushed hard. Keeping the triple carburetors tuned was a job for a patient specialist, and every day, drivability suffered. Straight-line performance was decent, but the Impala's big frame and soft suspension meant it handled like a land yacht. Difficult to steer, slow to stop, and liable to wallow in corners. Brake fade was a constant companion, and mechanical issues often left owners stranded. Despite its fame as a muscle car icon, the early SS 409 is more of a museum piece than a usable classic, remembered for its image more than its abilities on the road. Buick Electra 225 1960 to 1963. The early Buick Electra 225 was billed as the deuce and a quarter, but all that mass came with a host of issues. With a wheelbase stretching past 126 inches and curb weight tipping the scales, this Electra was a beast to handle. Sluggish off the line and hard to wrangle through tight turns, the 401 Ci Nailhead V8 struggled to motivate all that metal, and the two-speed Dynaflow automatic made for slow, rubbery acceleration. Frequent transmission failures and cooling issues only added to owner frustration. Meanwhile, braking such a massive car was a nerve-wracking affair, with drum brakes that faded quickly under real-world driving. Inside, luxury features often failed to live up to their billing, and the aging design was already falling behind the times as the 60s wore on. For those seeking genuine luxury and dependability, the Electra 225 often left a lot to be desired. Chevrolet Corvair Lakewood Wagon 1961 to 1963. Mixing the Corvair's notorious mechanical quirks with a wagon body, the Lakewood was an answer to a question few drivers were asking. The rear engine, air-cooled flat six, suffered from the same handling woes that plagued the coupe. But now, extra cargo space only made the rear heavy weight distribution worse. Loading up the wagon made its tail-happy behavior even more dangerous, especially on slippery or winding roads. Accessing the engine for maintenance was a back-breaking job, and overheating remained a constant threat. Add in the lack of crash protection and a long list of reliability issues, and the Lakewood was doomed from the start. Sales were weak, and GM quietly dropped the model, leaving it as one of the least loved Corvair variants, a footnote even among fans of this oddball car. So, there you have it. 15 of the worst GM cars to haunt American roads in the 1960s. From failed engineering gambles to mechanical nightmares, these cars prove that even industry giants can get it spectacularly wrong. Which model shocked you most? Did we miss a notorious GM lemon you remember? Drop your stories in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more wild rides through automotive history. Until next time, keep your classics running and your lemons off the road.